Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood and Co podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan.
And today we're talking about the first part of part 2, the Ealing Cannibal. Ealing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
We're doing chapter 6 and 7 today.
Part 1 of part 2.
That's what I said, right? I don't know. We don't write that down for ourselves, which is ridiculous.
Part 3 of book 4.
Oh, jeez. Do you ever... So, like, I follow some other podcasts and stuff that I listen to on social media, and sometimes they'll post pictures of what their notes look like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, man. They actually like themselves.
We used to have some crazy notes in the Dark Materials podcast that I can't suddenly remember the name of.
Measures of Truth.
Yeah.
We did, but that was mostly about thoughts. It wasn't like this person says this, and then this person says this, and then this. And
oh,
like this.
yeah. Where you
know,
scripted out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, maybe that would make things a little less awkward, but whatever.
No, I can't do that.
I don't prefer it for, like, the conversation, but I mean, for the intro and outro, I feel like we could be a little nicer to ourselves. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, chapter 6. That's what we're doing. Lucy meets with Lockwood and Co., Penelope Fitz, and Inspector Barnes to be hired for a case. I really feel like Barnes's presence in this chapter is nothing. Like, why was he there? But
he's
whatever.
Barely there, yeah.
Yeah. The chapter art is, like, I knew that it was going to be pictures of agents, but it does not match the description that Lucy gives when we get to that, and also they just look like class photos.
I kind of thought that too. When I imagined what it was, and I don't know if it's the way it's written or whatever, I saw like individual portraits more in my mind.
Or like maximum 5 people.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't, these are like dozens upon dozens.
Yeah,
of
this
people,
is like 30 people per photo. Yeah. And they're arranged in exactly the same way that my elementary class pictures were taken. Like, people are standing on benches behind other people, you know?
Yeah, it's like a boarding school yearly photo kind of situation for sure.
It's maybe it is like Fitz dormitories or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they also didn't draw the one picture that we actually like zone in on and talk about. It's a very strange turn, because also I feel this way about the next chapter art also, where you can tell exactly what is the drawing is of, but also like, but why did you do it that way? So it's a very strange turn these pictures have taken.
It's whatever speaks to her, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. So we open the chapter with Skull questioning Lucy about her decision to work with Lockwood and Co. again. And so I wrote down, I kind of don't agree with this, but I wrote it down anyways, of now who's being cheated on.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think it's right. Yeah. That's how he acts. I
actually think he acts more like when your best friend gets back with their toxic ex and you're like, why are you doing this?
Oh, good. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. Do you think there are people who ship Skull and Lucy? Do you think there's like anything there in the text?
It's really difficult to say. On Skull's part, I would say yes, but not. But like, he has no other choices, right? Even so, like it gets really difficult to say what it is, because there's also that level of desperation.
Yeah, he's desperately lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, it's just a spoiler alert for book 5 here. I actually really despise a little thing that Jonathan does at the end with Skull that I think is incorrect.
Oh.
Like, just a bad writing choice, honestly.
Wow. Okay. I really like Skull's story, so I'm very interested in what that's gonna
99% of Skull's story I think is perfect.
Yeah.
There's just that one tiny little thing at the end that I'm like, no, why did you do that? That ruins everything. It's like, okay, no spoilers, but it's like when Spike comes back in Angel, and it's like, why?
Okay.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Why?
No, you're right about that. Yeah, that's bad. It's just because you like the character so much. Just chuck all that
character development out the window.
Right. Yeah. It's
fuck off.
But it's my fave. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no.
He says a weird thing here that, like, it seems to me in the past that Skull can always he knows everything that's going on, no matter what's going on with his valve thing. And he's like, I saw you with him. What was that all about? Like, he didn't hear the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't, but it has been in previous books that he could hear when his valve was closed. He just couldn't speak, right?
Yeah.
I was unsure when I read this because I was like, I think that's how it was. Because
he's just being a little bitch about it. He's like,
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. Is like, explain yourself to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, he immediately starts to bring up Holly and just play on Lucy's worst fears and insecurities, and it's great.
And she's feeling doubt anyway. It says, this is like one of the most underlined things. It says, doubts like ghosts gain strength in darkness. Even with the dawn, I wasn't sure I'd done the right thing. So like he is being her internal voice again, being like, are you really gonna see those people again? Like, what's going on?
So, yeah, this is more the bit that felt like when your friend gets back with a toxic ex and you're like, well, or even just any ex, and you're like, like, it doesn't have to be a toxic ex, but like the type of significant other where they stop spending any time with their friends, you know, and you're like, why, blah, blah, blah. And then they just get into this silly argument where he's like, I don't need you anyway, I can talk to other people. He's like who? And he's like, people. Like, oh, Skull.
Which is like the way for Stroud to sneak in that he has talked to Marissa Fitz.
Yeah, which I think is the first time we've gotten actual confirmation that, like, everybody says that she can talk to type 3s, or that Mr. Fitz could talk to type 3s, but this is the first time because, like, she's already not around. So now we know that that is not just rumor. She absolutely could talk to type 3s.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And presumably more than one, because she didn't, from what we get out of this, is that she wasn't that interested in Skull.
Yeah. She talked to him and then she was like, lock him up.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
He makes fun of her for the clothes that she's trying on. He's like, oh, what are you going on a date or something? It made me wonder.
So mean. This is so mean.
It's very
she
mean.
Tries to make herself look nice to go meet Marissa Fitz, and then he's so mean to her that she just changes back into what she always wears. I'm like, I love Skull, but sometimes I want to slap him.
Yeah, he's very much undermining her confidence because, yeah, he doesn't want her back with them because then she's not going to need him. I think that's his clear motivation here. He's afraid.
Yeah.
But it did make me wonder, like, what if Lockwood had shown up to ask her on a date? Like, would it have gone differently? Would she just be like, no, Lockwood, we can't do that? Or would she just have been like, I don't know what to say?
I think that one, obviously. But that is interesting because she says that she can't work with him.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And, well, I'm sorry, my mind is just like the angsty books that would give us.
You'd be like, yeah, that could be his whole pitch. It'd be like, well, we can't work together, but that doesn't mean like we could go out to eat or something, you know, like that wouldn't. And then what would come of that? Like that would be really interesting.
Well, he would spend the whole time subtly trying to get her back. You know, just talking about the cases that they have and how they miss having a listener and blah, blah, blah. You know, like he wouldn't, not in a bad way. I mean, like he would be genuine about the dates, I would feel. But also like, it's too bad we don't have a listener anymore.
The whole thing is some kind of catfishing to get her back.
No, not really. Like, I don't think, because I don't want to say that he would have lied to her about wanting to go out on dates. But, you know, two birds, one stone.
Yeah. It just made me think about that. Like, would she have, because all of her fantasies about turning him down were about like, come work with us or come back. And none of them seem to be about like, let me take you on a date. And so I don't think that she would have been prepared for that.
So I don't see, I don't think either of them are like that type of people.
No.
If that makes any sense. Like the way that the rest of the series goes, they're like either we're not in or we're all in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dates are not their thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like when are they gonna go on a date? At like 10 o'clock in the morning? You know what I mean? Like in their off time? It would be weird. Yeah, so back to the whole thing with Skull talking about like his origins and stuff. Like he really starts to open up with her and be vulnerable here, which I think is part of like, don't leave me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's interesting, like to contrast Skull and Lockwood again, you know, like she was so interested in Lockwood's history and his story and stuff. And it seems to me like she's just never asked Skull these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just offering up the information. So it's just interesting to me that she's never been reaching out for that connection before. But now like Skull is like just trying to get her to connect to him on that level.
Not trying very hard. But I do feel like they asked him, like in book 2, when they weren't friends. Mm-hmm. And he refused to answer.
That's true. That's true, yeah.
And so it just never comes up again for Lucy.
He's coy about it, where they're like, is this you in this book, this Mary Dulac thing? And he's like, who could say? I
do like whenever we get a little bit of Skull's past.
He's very mysterious.
He's very, yeah.
But she gets back into more of her normal clothes. She's not going to try and be more formal. And then she leaves Skull there, doesn't take him to the interview, and
Skull gives her a hard time about this, but can you imagine if she brought Skull in to meet with Penelope Fitz?
That would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Not only crazy from like Lucy's point of view, but I feel like different things would have gone down in this story, you know?
The whole book would have been different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been very different.
And then, of course, since she wanted to make a good impression, everything goes wrong and she's 15 minutes late to getting there.
Yeah. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong on the way there, and she's all sweaty and hot by the time she gets there too.
That's just the worst. I feel like back when I had to commute to work, I've definitely had days like that where like you leave kind of on time, you know, maybe a little bit, 2 minutes or whatever later than you meant to. And then after that, just everything goes wrong. And you're like, how? This wasn't even my fault. But also you did leave those 2 minutes later. So maybe it is kind of your fault. And you're just like, and then you show up to work and you're just discombobulated about it all. And you're like, ugh.
You have to spend time calming down, which is definitely what happens with her.
Yeah, it's the worst.
They do like tell her to go in. They're expecting her. They recognize her. And this is like a different experience of being in here, because they came here for the Fitz ball, but now it's like, getting to see the place while business is happening, I guess.
Yeah.
And getting to go to a more exclusive part of the building that's like her personal office near where she sleeps, I guess it says. She has like a lobby that's adjoining to her penthouse apartment.
Yeah, I assume it's not just like a bedroom.
Yeah.
Like Penelope Fitz isn't eating in the communal dining room with her slaves.
Yeah, she is her slaves. Hello, Commons.
Yeah.
This is like, I think it says that it gets a few floors down and stuff, but it is like an exclusive meeting place where she takes.
It's kind of giving royalty, like
for sure.
Who has their personal apartments within their palace and their meeting room attached so that they don't have to go far if they don't want to. It's
also, so she is very late and she shows up and then they talk for a while and then Penelope shows up. Yeah. And I really like that, because it is exactly what you're saying, where that's how you operate with power, is you don't sit around and wait for the people to show up. Yep. Like you arrive, you initiate the meeting, you keep them waiting for you. No matter how late Lucy would have come, she wouldn't have been there waiting for her, in other words.
Yeah, and like she sends somebody out to get them. She doesn't come out to get them.
Exactly.
And so, but it does sort of feel like she was watching the cameras.
Definitely. Yeah. But before all that, because we have to meet the team, she gets to meet George and Holly and all of them while they're waiting to go up.
She is back to calling Holly first name, last name, Holly Monroe.
That's right. Lockwood, George, and Holly Monroe. Yeah.
Oh, and she says that she feels worse than she did during the pursuit of the mirror ghost. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Terrifying ghost any day. Having to see friends you didn't leave on the best of terms with. Terrifying.
Yeah, consequences for your actions. Yeah, it's not.
No, thank you.
It's uncomfortable.
It's not for me.
She does notice that Lockwood, it says he was making more of an effort than usual. I hadn't seen that attention to detail before, where it talks about like his hair is kind of gelled and stuff like that. And then it says, for me, no, Penelope Fitz was far more likely, which I think is part of this style choice that I've been noting for the whole book, where there's something unsaid there that is the real thing, that I don't even think she can say that to herself, that she wants the attention to detail to be about her, but it's not, or she doesn't think that it. Do you think that it is? Do you think that this is about business, or is he like, Lucy, come back to me?
I don't know. I mean, the simplest answer is both. Right, that he's probably telling himself it's for Penelope, but also thinking about Lucy. But also, like, I think Lockwood knows that that type of, like, that's not what Lucy would care about. Other than she would care to know that he, like, she doesn't care about the attention to detail, but she would care to know that it was for her, if that makes any sense.
No, that's totally what it, yeah, I agree 100% that it would be towards her. It wouldn't even matter what the outcome was. Like, if he tried to dress up and he did a bad job, but it was for her, it would mean a lot more than him just dressing up.
Yeah.
But I don't know that she is even acknowledging that to herself. She's trying to read him. And there's also like a good interruption of their connection here. Like, she can't read him. She's not sure what, like, he's ambiguous to her.
Yeah. Like, it's very clear when he went to her apartment that attention to detail was for her. So I don't want to say unequivocally no, but Lockwood would be aware that meeting with Penelope Fitz is a big deal like this. Like, that getting a job from her personally was a big deal for Lockwood and Co. And as much as he's not the way that he was in book 3, he's not, he hasn't suddenly, he doesn't care. He has not suddenly decided to not care about the agency.
Right.
Is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So,
unlike George Cubbins, who is a committed casual dresser.
Yeah, who also doesn't care. Well, doesn't care about making a good impression on people. But, like, that's the thing about George. He also doesn't care about people making a good impression physically anyways on him. So at least he's not a hypocrite about it.
Yeah. That's his whole thing, is I'm going to be real with you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I do like when she's looking at George, there's this detail. Well, I don't like this detail, but I like the way that it's written, where it says, George seemed thinner and I thought more careworn. He looked older too, with harder lines around the eyes. How would this happen in only 4 months? Which again, this is not really answered and it's left unsaid, but I think it's clearly like Lucy can't see how her leaving could have hurt George at all, let alone so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's the answer to the question.
I think that's part of the answer to the question. Definitely. But let's also remember that Lockwood and Co. hired Holly because they were so busy and they needed an extra agent, and then Lucy quit. And
that's true. Yeah.
So I think George doesn't make friends easily, as we were just talking about. So I definitely think that having one of his friends kind of abandon him like that, especially since it wasn't about him, like, that kind of sucks too. Like, to know that you weren't even really a factor in the decision. Yeah. And as much as Lucy said, like, Lucy told them that it was about all of them, like, they all know that wasn't the whole truth. They're not dumb. So definitely having one of his own friends abandon him that way, and like I said, have his feelings on the matter not even really be a factor in her decision, like, that sucks a lot. And then plus they're probably super busy because they're back down to, in a way, even less agents, because Holly's not as good of an agent as Lucy. Like, she doesn't like going out in the field as much as Lucy, and she's not a good listener. Or like she's not an extraordinary talent the way Lucy is.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That he's probably just burning the candle at both ends in a lot of ways.
And which would build up resentment against Lucy too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think we see that in this chapter.
100%.
Yeah.
Their exchange is just hello George, hello Lucy, and then that's basically it.
Yeah. And then she gets to Holly and there's it she doesn't miss Holly as much, which makes sense in a lot of ways. But also she says, I think this is really interesting. She says, also because throughout the winter there'd been a sort of Holly-shaped hole in my brain into which I used to throw dark thoughts. So she just always has Holly there, like sweeping up the crumbs in front of her in her mind. And my note was, oh yeah, it's her Jungian shadow. She's just throwing all of her darkness in there.
It's interesting though, because I really do think Holly and Lucy don't have that blind dislike anymore.
Yeah.
But also, like, it totally makes sense that she would still be lying in her bed like none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Holly. You know, like...
Or just comparing yourself to Holly constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it seems like on Holly's side of things, as far as I can tell in these two chapters, that for Holly, it's all done. Everything's good between her and Lucy.
I think it's the same way, though, with Lucy. Like, does she feel responsible, do you think? How would she not? Like, I don't think she's angry at Lucy anymore or anything like that. But I do think that they're both still... because Lucy left so quickly, they didn't ever really get to a comfortable place with each other, even if they were at a good place. Right? So I think things are a little unresolved, even if they're not angry at each other.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll talk about it more in the next chapter, because there's a wild part where it's just the two of them.
But there's this one bit later on in the book where the two of them have like the exact same thought at the exact same time and are completely on the level with each other. Like, they're good. And that's the point in the book where I thought, okay, they're good now. But that doesn't happen for a while.
Oh, I don't remember that. So that'll be good to get to.
It's like a little throwaway moment, and it's mostly like a joke. But it really showed, I thought, anyways, like a connection between the two of them.
Yeah, that's good.
And sometimes it really is just you boys, but like sometimes that's all girls need.
I do kind of remember that kind of vibe now that you say that. So they all meet back up. They talk a little bit about like how things have gone in the last 4 months, and she's like, I am underdressed. I wish I would have dressed up more. And George is like, you could try wearing that haunted dress over there.
Oh, so mean.
It is mean. He doesn't laugh. It's clear that he feels resentful, like you said.
Yeah. And he's also like grilling her on what she charges people.
Yeah.
Also like, 'cause I couldn't live by myself on what Lockwood pays me, so you must be charging more now. And she's like, yeah, a little bit more. He's like, so what is it? It's so awkward and weird. And perfectly written, honestly.
And it's unsaid, right? It made me think so much about like your well observed thing from the first book onward about her and George being able to just like go at each other completely and everything be fine. And now it feels like George can't say certain things to her and really resents these boundaries where he doesn't understand like where are we? Like, what can I say to you? What can I not say? I don't like that I can't say certain things to you now.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, it's the style choice of this book that there's a lot of unsaid things, that a lot of things are talked around, and that's like what they're about.
That's kind of the style of their whole relationship. Like all four of them. Yep.
It's the thing in this book. That's what they arc through, I think.
But even in book 5, when things are between the group, things are really good. It's all unsaid.
I guess I feel like by the end of this book, it's like they all kind of fell together by happenstance in the first book, and they didn't really know each other or what they had or what was going on. But then but this book, it becomes a chosen thing, if that makes sense, because
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that you need to say it after it's a chosen thing.
No, I agree. I don't think it's missing, but it is still unsaid, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyways, eventually they're summoned in to see Penelope, and Barnes is there because we can't forget that Barnes exists, I guess. He has an important part at the end, so he needs to be here at the beginning. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Here's Barnes. That probably really is what it is, right? Because this could be your first book, and if that he just showed up at the end, you'd be like, who's this guy?
Yeah, exactly. So then we hear about Solomon Guppy, and how one day he just decided to eat his neighbor.
I guess. Yeah.
Like, it does kind of sound like maybe he, like the problem kind of ruined his whole career and business and everything, and blah, 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 blah. And then he decided to eat a dude. I don't know, man.
I remember this as like, it was the one that got him caught, but that he had been doing it more. But I don't know that there's any evidence for my memory. Yeah, exactly.
That's how I remembered it. And then I'm reading this and I'm like, oh no, it was just this one guy that he ate.
I guess, yeah.
That sounds terrible to say just, but you know what I mean.
No, that's right though, because that's exactly how I felt. I think because he's playing with certain tropes about the cannibal that I'll talk about that more in a minute. I did notice here that when she like is like, you know who Solomon Guppy is, Lockwood's like, wasn't he was a killer, wasn't he hanged? And I was like, do they hang people in the UK? Like I had to look this up for capital punishment. And I guess that whole thing, the answer is yes, but it stopped in the 1960s and they haven't done it since then. But here in the World of the Problem, they talk about 30 years back, which to me would place it in the 80s-ish.
Even the 60s seems wild.
Very
to still
late.
Be hanging people.
Yeah.
Though didn't the last person who was like guillotined in France, wasn't that in like the 80s or 90s also? Like that.
Oh, I don't know. That's
like
crazy.
It was pretty late.
True.
Yeah. I'm gonna Google that.
I read a lot on the, I mean, it's not a good source. I looked it up on Wikipedia and there was a lot of like trying to get rid of it through the early 1900s, the capital punishment in the UK. But because of the world wars and all this stuff, things didn't calm down enough for them to abolish it until the 60s. So
1977 was the last guillotine.
Wow.
Wild.
The French are brutal. A lot of ghosts there, man. I'm telling you, Paris is a nightmare in the problem world.
I mean, that's an interesting question because Paris is close enough to England, France is close enough to England that if it is an England-centric thing, that the like waves coming out from it would reach France.
Yeah.
Jeez, I almost called it England and then just Paris and then France, whatever. Europe.
It's just basically one giant city called Paris over there.
That is not true. But but yeah, no, Paris would be a mess. Paris is a mess though. Like I hate Paris.
Oh man. Now it's really coming out.
I was only there for like 2 days and it was boiling hot, so obviously I was grumpy. I just remember everybody we spoke to was exceedingly unhelpful. Like they were polite, but unhelpful. Like one time we asked somebody at the place we were staying for like a restaurant recommendation and they would not give us a restaurant recommendation. They were just like, I love that. We can't give a recommendation. They just wouldn't do it. And I'm like, okay. You literally work at the front desk. It wasn't a hotel, it was like a hostel, but still. I was like, could you not just tell us somewhere to eat?
You'd be like, can we have a recommendation? They're like, no, absolument no.
It wasn't even that forceful. I got from the conversation that they weren't allowed to give us recommendations. I don't know if that's true, but it was so weird. The only helpful person was the customs agent because I couldn't understand a word he was saying. And after me saying, I'm sorry, 3 times, he just stamped my passport and put me through. I did not answer a single question.
It's like Canadians.
Yep.
That's great.
Anyways, and it was so sunny and boiling hot. And then when we took the train to London, Oh, we came up, there was sheep and it was raining. And I was like, oh, this feels so much better. So I was just like, thank God for cool weather and rain. The Louvre was cool, though. I love the Louvre. Amazing.
I've never, like, as a true American, I've never left America except to go to Canada briefly. I would never go to Europe. It's a terrible place. Like, doesn't everybody there have healthcare and stuff, and like the education system is like really good? And
I mean,
terrible.
It depends where you are, but yeah.
It's just that I'm too poor to go there. That's what's really happening.
My trip was free, so
nice. Yeah.
Well, for me, somebody
that.
paid. Yeah, I had to watch other people's children, but yeah.
Oh, not worth it. No.
Oh, we had a good time though. They were teenagers, so it was fun.
Especially not European children.
No, they were Canadian. We brought them with us.
Oh, wow.
We didn't just pick up. I volunteer with Girl Guides. Sometimes we go on international trips. I have also been to England on my own, though. That one I did pay for.
I want to ask you about like what's going on here, because I don't think I understand.
Okay.
So at one point in this conversation, Penelope is talking about like, okay, here's the thing about this case. There's no apparition. There's no like stuff moving around. It's just sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, she glanced across at me with her dark and serious eyes. From the tone of her voice, you'd have thought listening was a trivial psychic talent, but the flash of her gaze implied it was the most important thing in the world. So like, what is Penelope doing? Like, why does she want Lucy on this case? She could just hire Lucy if she wants Lucy. But she also wants Lockwood there. Like, what is she doing? Why does she want them all to work on this case?
It's possible that when she first brought this up with Lockwood, she didn't realize Lucy had left.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Right? So, and then she's just kind of stuck with the whole team.
So she really wants Lucy, is what you're saying. Okay. But then I'm confused why. Like, for how the case goes, I don't understand what a goal might be. Like, maybe as a test to see.
That's what I would think.
Okay.
That's really the only thing. Yeah. And
okay. I didn't think of that very obvious answer. I was like, I don't understand.
It does seem like something she would know, though. Like, I think there's a little bit of the author needs the group to come together, you know? Like, So, because it does sort of seem like something she would know.
Because she's been out here for 4 months. She's been working with lots of different agencies, including Rotwell. It doesn't seem like she's ever worked with Fitz. So I guess maybe she wouldn't know, but I don't know. It seems like she really has her finger on the pulse of things, though.
It does seem that way, but also she could see, if she was a slightly different character, it would make sense for her to not bother herself with those types of details, you know, to not be paying that much attention. But I don't get that from her character, especially with Lucy, because she's met Lucy before, and I don't know if I'm smooshing show stuff now.
I think they've talked.
No, they've definitely talked. I just don't know if she was intrigued by her at all, or if she was... In the books, I don't know if we have any reason to think that she noted Lucy at all, because I'm... Yeah, kind of smooshing it with the show there.
Yeah, in the show party, she's definitely like... It's very, I think I said Emperor Palpatine, like very like, ooh, you're powerful.
And also with her conversation with Golden Blade in the car. Yeah. Is interesting. But I mean, that's what we can be given to understand. That's just the easiest explanation, that she wanted to do something with Lucy and she didn't realize Lucy had left Lockwood and Co.
And this problem seems like a real non-problem to me, because it's like there's a completely empty house that's like locked up. It's not, this haunting is not affecting anybody.
Oh yeah, they could just bulldoze.
Exactly.
They just burn it down.
Right. Yeah. And get rid of it. And it seems like so much of like a test to me.
Yep. I kind of wish that the story had gone that way, that like Penelope had just found Lucy and been like, come and be my number 2, you know? I guess a little bit more Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. That would make more sense, where it's like try to hire her for a job and then like, I don't know, Lockwood insert himself into the situation or something. But I don't know. I don't want to criticize the book and be like, this is messed up. It was just me trying to like figure out like, why is she doing this?
Yeah, no, I really like this book and I like everything that happens. I just, were I writing it for her to get back with Lockwood and Co and stuff, I absolutely would have her go and be Penelope's protege for a while and figure out a lot of the corruption going on there, and then sort of have to run away from it. But that's a completely different story than what we get.
It is a pretty different book. I think that's probably what I would do too. This is a little bit more, like I've been saying, hard-boiled though, because I feel like she has a innate distrust, Lucy does, of like the establishment.
That's
especially
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
after working with Rotwell and stuff, she's just like,
maybe
guys,
Penelope knew that.
Yeah, she had. So this is like the better way to do it.
Yeah.
There is a moment after they lay out everything, and after Barnes and Penelope lay out everything and say, here's the whole thing, they break up, and then she comes over to where she's looking at where Lucy's looking at all those pictures, and some of the pictures include Marissa Fitz, and Penelope has this conversation that I think is mirrored in the show, what we were just talking about, where she like becomes suddenly vulnerable. But I really like this moment because it feels so obviously fake to me.
Yeah.
Because of the whole thing of Lucy coming in late and then she summons them up and all of this stuff. Like she is very much like exercising her power in a deliberate way. And then for her to come over and be like, oh, that was my grandmother and blah, 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 blah. And it was my mother in that picture and she died young. And trying to establish this very fake connection with Lucy is skillful and like obvious manipulation. It's sinister.
Yeah, the whole my mother who died young and then immediately being like, oh, it doesn't matter. I barely remember her.
Yeah. I really loved my grandmother. I didn't care about my mom. It's like weird. And
then, of course, she does that. I asked for you specifically, Lucy, which is also, like we were just talking about, is intriguing. What does she want with Lucy? But also, Lucy just hears, oh, it wasn't Lockwood that wanted me on the job. He only asked me because of Penelope.
Yeah. It takes our focus off of that question and just makes it about the emotional relationship. That's true. Yeah. I think I was distracted by that because she literally does say the thing that you said. She's like, when I first mentioned the case to Anthony, which we didn't talk about that whole situation, he told me you were no longer working with him. So that's exactly what you said, that she was like, oh, I'll reel in Lucy Carlisle and test her. Yeah. And she's not there. Shit. Well, you better get her or don't worry about it. But yeah, she calls him Anthony, which is like something he doesn't let anybody do, but he lets Penelope do that.
That's an interesting line there, though, because in the first book, he says you can call me my first name or my last name, but not Tony or not Big A or whatever. He said he doesn't care. Just everyone calls him Lockwood.
Oh, okay.
So now for Lucy to say he doesn't let anybody call him by his first name, but he's letting Penelope, that's interesting. But also, like, if the like most famous person in the world decided to call you your first, like, you wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
You wouldn't try to change that.
Yeah. Especially for him, the way that Lockwood is, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're peers. This is great. This is what I want."
Yeah.
There's a weird change here. This is like nitpicky, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Between the two versions, I think it's just a mistake, but I was so confused by it. So in the original UK version, it says, this is Penelope speaking. Mm-hmm. I have every confidence in the other's abilities, but I believe that success will depend mainly on you. And in the North American version, it says, I have every confidence in your abilities, but I believe that success will depend mainly on you. And I was like, What does that line say? That's very, who changed this and why?
That must be a mistake.
Yeah.
But also, like, that seems like the weirdest mistake because they had to actively make it.
That's what I mean. Like, it was, like, Stroud wrote it correctly, and then somebody was like, oh, gotta change this. Change it into confusion. But whatever.
I don't even see that here.
It's near the end. It's in the last couple of paragraphs. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
maybe
it's just in the Kindle.
In your abilities. No, it is here, but I believe that success will depend mainly on you. I assume I guess she means your as a group.
Oh, okay. Collective abilities.
Yeah, I have every
Yeah.
confidence in your collective abilities, but I believe success will depend mainly on you. Yeah. It does seem a weird thing to pay any attention to, though.
I don't know. Yeah, like maybe they
why?
thought it would be confusing to say others' abilities to be like, what others? But it's not confusing at all. So I don't know.
I do wish we could, like, whoever made these choices, sit them down and be like, explain yourselves.
That's their job.
Please.
They have to change things or they don't have a job.
Yeah. I did come across a post on, I don't know, some social media the other day saying that the original version of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder takes place in England, and for the North American release, they fully just put it in Connecticut.
What?
I haven't read this book, so I don't know, but they literally just are like, England, no. Connecticut.
Yeah, I do have it in my wish list. I'm anytime it'll go on sale, I'll snatch it up probably. But that's crazy.
That's the most insane I've ever heard.
That's crazy. Also, Connecticut is not relatable to anyone in America. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't make it more relatable than England, is what I'm saying. So even people in Connecticut are like, I don't understand people in Connecticut. So
I think I've been to Connecticut.
exactly. Everyone thinks they've been to Connecticut. They don't know because it's.
When you drive down from like Ontario, you cross, I think, directly into New York State.
Yeah, you have to. Connecticut's further south. It is on the ocean.
Right, but we've driven to Florida, so we've been around.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a bunch of states over there that I've been to, but I'm not sure which ones they were, or what route we took, or whatever. Yeah, I know I've been to Georgia because I had the weirdest lunch ever.
Well, that's how that whole area up there, New England, is. You'd like, I don't know what states I drove through. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, and then once you get down by Georgia and stuff, you're like, will I ever leave Georgia? When does it stop being a state?
I mean, we got to Florida, so okay. Chapter 7. In
Chapter 7, Lucy catches up with Flo Bones and then meets with Lockwood and Co. to learn about the cannibal's crimes.
Fun alliteration. The chapter art is, I knew it was research photos. And again, when we got there, it was obviously the one photo that they sort of zero in on about the guy.
Right, yeah.
But it still just seems like a weird choice to me. Not as weird as the previous one, but the way that she's drawn it, like he's this, like he already looks like a ghost in that picture. Like a
ghost. That's what I thought it was when I saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a picture of a ghost.
One of the guards looks so small next to him that, like, inhuman. Like, the choices made here are wild. But anyways.
It's Bobby Vernon with a ghost. No, it's not. It's just supposed to be like, this is how big he is. Because he's like a monster, basically.
I get that, but it's a photograph.
No. I agree. Yeah, I had the same thing. I was like, that's a ghost.
I think I talked and yawned at the same time there. Sorry to the editor.
They have this whole thing about like, so they're still at the Fitz place and they're like, okay, we need to break. We got to do research. We got to get supplies. So they agree about when to meet up and when they're going to go get stuff. And Lucy disagrees with Lockwood about what time that should happen. I think this is significant. Because, so she disagrees with him about like, a leadership decision. He wants to do 4:00 and she says, no, 4:00's too late. It won't give us enough daylight when we get to Ealing. And I feel like, so the emotional motivation for this feels like that she is hurt by finding out that Penelope is the one who wanted her included in the case and not Lockwood. And so she is disagreeing with him partially because of that. She never made these kind of like, disagreements with him when they were working together.
Or even if she thought that this would be better, she would say it more like, wouldn't it be better to do it this way?
Yeah.
She wouldn't say, oh, I disagree, we should do this.
Yeah.
Which is a subtle but important difference.
And I think also him choosing it so close, like what you were saying in one of the other episodes, like it gets dark so early in that time of the year in England. So like 4:00, the sun would be setting and stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe not by March if they're in March, but still, it would get dark early. Yeah, they are more north than we are.
Right. Yeah. They're really far north. I think this kind of shows the whole thing about we get George, I can't remember who says it, that like Lockwood is more reckless than ever, and like he's hard to restrain in cases and stuff. Like, so he's even more like, Lucy was worried about, oh, he'll kill himself trying to protect me, but her leaving has just kind of made it worse, actually.
It is George, but he says that later. We haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, way later. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this is like a little hint to it, or a foreshadowing that he's like, we'll just basically go when it's dusk. And she's like, maybe we should go earlier and set up defenses and like look around. And everybody else is like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. And even George is like, yeah, I don't need that much time to research.
Yeah.
Let's do the earlier one. So, but I'm surprised that they're going that night. Like, why wouldn't they just go the next night? As you said, nobody's living at this house. Nobody's like, this feels even more like a test.
It is
because like they're on a time limit.
Yeah. Penelope was like, you guys could go today. You could just do it. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess.
But it feels more like she's saying you have to get it done tonight, or bad thing, or, you know, I won't like you, or as much.
I'll be disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's better.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, they agree to break, and then they go their separate ways, and they're going to get supplies and all this other stuff. And Lucy's like, nope, I got my own thing to do. And she goes and finds Flo Bones.
Sort of by accident. Like, well, she's going over to the cheaper shops because Holly's like, we can pick you up supplies. She's like, no, I've got supplies. And then she's like, I don't got supplies. I just can't afford that shop. It's great. So I guess like she goes over to the cheaper part of London and runs into Flo.
Like, of course. That's where Flo, hangs out.
And I really like their conversation. It feels like some of the most respect they've ever given each other.
100%. Yeah, it's great. She knows how to read Flo's behavior as she's not offended, and it's so
yes. Cool. And also I think Flo somehow understands Lucy in a way that none of the others do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and it's really subtle here, but she's just like, I don't even know. It's like she respects Lucy's choices, but also is like, I don't know how to describe it. You know, it's very big sister is what it is.
I agree. Yeah. I think her leaving, Flo's like, wow, didn't know you had it in you. Yeah. Kind of a vibe that she respects. But at the same time, she's like, you know, it was all about that Holly girl. And she's like, it wasn't, which we know is true. But
okay, I cannot remember if it's ever actually said in the book, but it comes up a lot in fan fiction, I think. Do you think Lockwood offered to fire Holly if Lucy would stay?
Oh, and they're like talk at the cafe kind of a thing?
Yeah.
I feel like that's not Lockwood. I could see why people would write that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so desperate of him. I feel like he would be like begging at that point. Like, please, I'll fire her. I don't think he'd ever do that.
I don't think of it that way. I think of him just very matter-of-factly, like, is it Holly? I'll fire her. You're more important. You're a better agent.
I don't think Lockwood would do that unless he was pushed to a further extreme, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, for him to get to the point where he would say that would be like a breaking point for him to be like, I will cripple the business to have you back. Because it's so important with him. It's how he copes with the world is work. Like, he can't, that's the last vestige. He can't mess that up. That's how I would, if I was a fan fiction editor, I'd be like, he hasn't gone far enough. You haven't earned this for him to say that.
The only reason I don't think it happened is because it never comes up. You know, like Lucy never looks at Holly and thinks, I could have gotten rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
If I had just come back.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have come back if that was
No. She absolutely would not have. No.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't think she wants Holly fired anymore. I don't really think she ever, like, she never would have, even when she hated Holly the most, saying that she wanted her gone would have been like losing. You know, like there's never a situation, whether good or bad, where Lucy would say that she wanted Holly gone. It's doing so well.
It's been really hard this episode talking about like Penelope said this, and then they talked about Marissa and Holly and Lucy. I'm like, am I saying the right names?
Anyways, Flo and Lucy have a great conversation, and Flo gives us a little bit of plot with what's happening with her crowd, Relic people.
Yeah.
And she mentioned that there's like a new buyer in town who's just scooping up all the good stuff, and nobody really knows who it is. The Winkmans who aren't in jail are involved, and she mentions that there was a mummified head.
Yeah, that matches her relic
That
or
sounds
source.
extremely similar to the mummified head that Lucy dropped off at the furnaces that went into the fire. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. So this is all very hard-boiled.
Yeah.
Coded, where the detective meets with the criminal operative, which is kind of how Flo is always operated in these books anyway. But
Yeah.
she's getting all this out of her without a stick of licorice being involved, which I also like. They're just kind of shooting it, just talking things like they're friends.
Yeah, it's like the first clue before you know you're collecting clues.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. But since Lucy kind of takes up this liminal space, she's able to uncover the conspiracy a little bit.
Yeah. So then she gets her supplies, gets her ghost in a jar, and then goes to the cafe that they're meeting at.
Right. And so who would be here before everybody else and be on time?
It's Holly.
It's Holly Monroe.
So we get a conversation between just the two of them. And honestly, I wish we had more of these in not just this book, but are there any conversations in book 5 between the two of them? Like just the two of them? I don't remember.
A couple.
Anyways, I find them so interesting.
This has a good energy to it. Another, there's a lot of unspokenness here.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Well, Holly starts talking about something that she's reading in the papers about kids scamming adults for money. And I'm like, why are all these children on the streets? Why?
That's what Lucy says.
Yeah, right? Lucy's just like, well, they got to make money. And it's like, why do they have to make money? They're children. What is happening in England? That all of these children are on the streets and need to make money. Are they all orphans? Or have they all run away? Like, what is happening? Get your shit together, England.
Yeah, I love how they interpret the story, because Holly is like, look at the lack of propriety in these children, and the morals of youth are being eroded, and Lucy's like, yeah, there's a lot of poverty nowadays, and we can't all be agents. So what are they supposed to do?
Yeah,
rely on adults? You can't do that. So.
I get that from Lucy's perspective, but what is actually happening? Why do these kids not have any adults?
Why are terrible.
There so many? I get that there's a big death count with all these ghosts, and especially probably after Chelsea last year. Honestly, that's probably where they all came from. That's actually really sad, because I assume a lot of people died in the big outbreak. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And why weren't these kids just scooped up into the night watch? That's a real failure of the government to capitalize.
Yeah, that's what
opportunity.
That's another thing that I'm thinking. This is a good way to make money off of them, but instead they've just let them. I guess they weren't ready for it. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, so now this is not at all how Jonathan Stroud meant this line, but I have to point out a really wild, one might say insane decision for Lucy to say about the only main character who is not white. Which is, it was her skin that always got to me. I know she doesn't mean it. He could have just said it was her perfect skin that always got to me. And that would have been a lot better. But what the heck? What a thing to write.
That is what he seems to mean.
It is.
Yeah.
But, and so
I
it's not.
That too.
But I'm just and he just described her skin as dark and.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
It says it was darkly buttery,
yes.
And not a pimple to be seen.
Yeah. And then, oh yes, it's right after it. Sorry, I thought it was right before it. And I just, did nobody read that and think, maybe we could change that a little bit so that Lucy doesn't say something a little racist? But again, it is not meant that way at all, but it is still weird to read.
It also, a little bit later, says that there'd been a time when her easy perfection drove me mad, talking about her looks. And any time that I see somebody say that about feminine beauty, of oh, she's just perfect, it's so easy for her. I've never known a woman who has quote unquote perfect feminine beauty, that it's easy or natural for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a shitload of work and money.
Not living with Holly, Lucy can make up anything.
Yeah.
Right. About how she gets ready and that sort of thing. Though I will say there is a type of woman who will tell you it was easy, even if it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it has to be. Yeah, because that's like the whole thing, right? Like that's
and like
where you get the
especially
value of it. Yeah.
right, but I mean especially to other women, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think Holly's that type of person. She just doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Or at least not to Lucy, because they haven't been on the best of terms.
Yeah. So she makes it about how she is comparing herself, because she says, I knew in my disheveled, wildly imperfect way, I'd done the same to her. So
yeah,
she's saying that the way that she looks all messy makes Holly crazy, and the way that Holly looks perfect makes her crazy, which was like the whole previous book.
Yeah. And then just as they're sort of getting into some genuine conversation, you know, and Holly says that she's missed Lucy and talks
Right.
about, you know, having to be with the two boys and how George is George. And then she's like, and Lockwood, and she's kind of trails off a bit, and he's restless and remote. He never sits still long enough for me to reach him. I was going to ask you about that, whether you found, oh, good, and here are the boys too. And I just wrote down, could these two please just have an uninterrupted heart-to-heart? Like,
yeah.
I feel like that would go a long way. But unfortunately, Lockwood and George show up.
Because she's like, do you know who missed you the most at Lockwood and Co? And she's like, it was me. Do you think is she making fun of Lucy, or is she being genuine? I think she's being genuine.
No, yeah, I think she's being genuine about her missing Lucy. Absolutely. I don't know if she's not being maybe a little friendly teasing about trying to say, like, do you know who missed you the most? You know what I mean? Like, not, so she is teasing a little bit there. It's not in a bad way.
Oh, okay. I didn't read that element to it. I get what you're saying, that like this isn't the person that you want to hear missed you the most, but it was me, kind of a joke almost.
Yeah, but not in a malicious way.
In a mean way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think that she's being fake or condescending is the real point here. That
yes.
their entire previous relationship is not repeating. She's like being nice to Lucy. And it is uncomfortable though.
It is uncomfortable, but like even when they are driving each other a little bit mad, like with the easy perfection, like you said, Lucy can very clear. You just said this, like Lucy points it out. She's like, she's not keeping it. She's not lying about it, I guess. Yeah. To herself or to Holly. She's just like, yep, that drives me mad. And then talks about something else. Like,
yes. Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but they do seem to be, the bad feelings are still there, but they're in a better place about them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good. This conversation is so well written, and like there's just a lot. The relationship has evolved, but it's not like in a perfect place or anything. There's still places to go, and it's just crunchy and interesting.
And I really like we get a brief look into, like, throughout these chapters with George and Holly, we get these glimpses into what Lockwood has been like since Lucy left. Because obviously Lockwood would never tell Lucy.
That's right.
And so we get that, you know, restless and remote, and he never sits still long enough for her to reach him. And it, in a way, it kind of sounds like how Lucy felt about Lockwood in book 1.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I do feel like Lucy could always kind of read Lockwood a little bit, even when he was being remote. Except in book 3, when everybody was not in a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. She was just reading the only thing she had left of him, this fantasy.
Yeah.
And then she gets snapped out of it by him cheating on her by hiring someone.
But yeah, so we just get a brief glimpse into what's happening in Portland Row without Lucy. But then they show up, and Lockwood is the team's all here. Let's chat. We've got a taxi coming in half an hour. What's the case look like? And George gets down to business, and we learn about how he just ate a dude.
Right. Yeah. His neighbor, like you said before.
Yeah.
There's, in horror and, you know, like crime fiction and stuff, there's often a trope about cannibals that they kind of like absorb the strength of their victims. And so it becomes like the cannibal will have the strength of 2 or 3 men or something like that. And also like the size of it, if that makes sense. Like they're just a bigger person, as if they have absorbed the being of their victims in some sense. And that's how this guy is like constructed as a character. But like you said, the only thing we have evidence is that he ate his one neighbor. So like, I don't know what's going on there. So
I guess we can just assume, like, but I don't know, did he just wake up one day and think, yep, I've been thinking about it for so long, and now I'm going to do it? Like,
I mean, that guy just looks delicious down the street. I can't resist anymore. I don't know. We don't get any insight into his motivations or anything like that. He's just like a monster, which is fine. Like he doesn't need to be
one
complicated.
Time.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Like, I don't know. And that's weird to say. I just feel like this would all make more sense if he'd eaten a couple other people.
Yeah, that's how it feels for sure. It feels like he's the cannibal archetype character, and he got caught here. I don't know. Yeah, he talks about how the evidence of the crimes in the house was all over the place, which is to say that
bits of him
everywhere. Yeah, in each room, which is gross, but will be like an important thing when we get to the to the actual.
But you know what? Like, it's gross, but also, do you eat in every room of your house?
No,
I only eat in like 2 different rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of them is not the dining room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't eat in the dining room very much at all, honestly.
Only when we have people over, really. Other than that, I eat in the kitchen or like at my desk.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so this cannibal's a weirdo in a lot of ways. He's just eating everywhere in his house.
I'm even more disturbed now. Like, was there some in the bathroom? Did he bring a snack into the shower? Like, I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
If you were eating a guy, would you take time to shower? And none of this matters. Okay, bits, yes. Oh, we're pretty much done. Yeah, I didn't really take many notes during this last bit because they're just talking about him eating a guy and what he looks like. And
he's really big. That's what's important here.
He's really
very,
big
very
and
strong.
hulking, and yeah.
That I do like. There's a moment where Lockwood is like kind of tells them all to slow down. He says like, we don't actually know which spirit is it in forming the house, do we? Isn't it more likely to be Dunn's ghost? That's the victim, Dunn.
Yeah.
Rather than Guppy's. He's the one who died there. And after the Miss Winterbottom case, it's a good point, right? Like, let's not go into this assuming we know what ghost is what.
It is, yes. And also, like, they do say when they hanged Guppy, they burned him. And right. Like 80% of the time or whatever the fake number is, the source is a bone, right? From your body.
Right.
Or a piece of of the ghost's own body.
Right. Yeah, the living person's.
So, yeah, he was hanged elsewhere and they burned him.
Right.
So cremated. Cremated is the actual term. Sorry.
None of his remains are in the house. So, like, how could this be happening? Yeah. So that's part of the mystery of this guy is, like, what is actually going on in the house. And we know what to expect when we get there, that there's going to be evidence of the crimes in every single room and stuff like that. So this is proper creepiness for a haunted house. We're setting everything up for the next 3 chapters. Which is all really, really good. And then right before the end of this chapter, Lockwood takes out his wallet and he puts money on the table, which is a huge evolution for his character.
Oh my God. I didn't notice that at all. And you're right. That is huge. That's like the biggest change we've seen. I'm not even joking.
I know, right? I was like, I can't believe this.
I can't believe I didn't notice that when I think I just got to the end and I was like, yep, whatever. Wow. Because that was such a detail that I hated and brought up any time. And that's so interesting. Thank you for, that he's trying so hard here.
He's
Thank
trying
you for pointing
to get her
that
back.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Poor Lockwood. You can't buy her love, man. You got to earn it. Don't take shortcuts.
That's not what that is. That's showing her that he's changed.
Yeah. He needs to change.
Yeah. I really like that. I can't believe I've never noticed that before, especially since I put such because him forcing other people to pay, like, quote unquote, for getting his money or whatever, it annoyed me so much.
Oh, Luce, can you buy the train tickets?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah.
Your employee. Oh, I'm still angry. That's so nice though.
But yeah, next time we'll finish this part out with the actual haunting in the Ealing cannibal's house.
Yeah,
So
it'll be a lot of chapters, but
yeah,
I don't think there's much heart to heart. So we probably won't talk that much about it.
oh, it's just a bunch of scariness. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's mostly action. Although I will say I do love in these chapters they talk about a Fitz like agent of some kind being assigned to, I don't want to say supervise, but what is it, like observe them?
Oh yeah,
like,
we totally left that out.
Yeah. So Fitz is sending somebody along. And I love that they don't for 1 minute think about who it's going to be.
Right.
They're just like, some asshole from Fitz is going to be there. It's
Oh
like,
my
no,
God.
it's your asshole from
Yeah,
Fitz.
it's your asshole. That's right. Yeah.
Love
This
it.
is it's a great slow rolling out of all the cast again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it feels real good.
I'm excited to read the rest of this book.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Love this book. So what's the best joke in these two?
Oh no, the one where she says crackers.
That's mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about it.
We didn't even talk about it, but yeah, what is it? She calls, I did not make note of it at all, but it stuck out in my head, so I didn't even need to.
I'll see if I can find it to just read it a little bit. But yeah, Barnes is talking about the case or whatever. And this is like the one part where Barnes.
Oh, yeah. Solomon Guppy explained that he'd used a number of recipes, roasted dishes, fricassees? I don't know that word.
Fricassees.
I have no idea what they're even going for there. I was thinking fricasses, but they spelled that differently. Anyways, curries, even salads. He was quite experimental. Crackers, I said. I'm not sure about those, but he might have tried them. No, I mean, he was crackers. He was clearly bonkers, barking mad.
Right. He was cracked. Yeah.
It was great. That's really the only joke, to be fair.
It is. Yeah, there's not a lot of jokes in this part.
It's kind of like maybe this book is a little sad. And everybody's lonely.
Yeah, this part is just all about awkward energy and meeting the characters again. A fricassee is a dish of stewed or fried pieces of meat served in a thick white sauce. So terrible.
I don't think I've ever heard of
remains.
that.
It's a French thing. That's why.
French.
Are there any punk rock moments? There's she talks to Skull. It's not really punk rock. I mean, she decides to go to a formal meeting in her regular work clothes, but I feel like that was just defeat.
She wasn't doing it in a punk rock way.
Yeah.
She was doing it in a
like George would punk rock about it.
Yeah. I don't feel like these chapters are very punk rock. Again, it's just kind of the sad book.
Yeah.
For now, anyways.
It's very punk rock when you're an older mentor figure to tell your mentee that like none of your friends really like you. The only reason you're here is because I like you. Yeah, there's no punk rock parts.
All right, well, if you listening out there can think of a punk rock moment from these chapters, you can let us know on Twitter at Lockwood Podcast. Or if you want, you can follow me on Instagram and check out what I've been reading recently at Inferior Kate Reads.
You can go to our website where you can find all of the shows that we do, hologroundmedia.com, and you can send us an email by going to the contact page or sending your email to contact@hologroundmedia.com.
And remember, you can always just eat a dude.
No, you can't. You'll go to jail. You'll kill someone. That's bad.
Things going rough? Just eat a dude. I mean, They were probably going less rough for him after he got hanged. Anyways, I'm hitting stop. I'm hitting stop.